It's a great pleasure to welcome back to What's Next, Brandon Horn, who's the head of commercial at SolarAfrica Energy. And I'm sure that so much has happened, Brandon. It's been a few months since we last chatted. Firstly, how are you doing? And welcome back to What's Next.
Yeah, thank you very much, Aki. I think anybody in the industry will fully understand the complexities that the industry is going through at the moment. But with those complexities comes opportunity. And I think that's also why we're talking to you today, is just to give a broader understanding of what's going on and see where SolarAfrica, but the industry, can actually help businesses.
Yeah. Well, listen, I'm looking forward to it because there's so many challenges, the cost of electricity and the rising tariffs, what's driving these increases, I want to ask you. And of course, how businesses combat these tariffs and electricity 2.0, what is that all about? And talking about wheeling, like we spoke last time, which I'm really looking forward to our discussion. Now, you say that the next electricity crisis is prices. And this is my issue as well, because, the cost of electricity and the increases that we've been subjected to over the last few years in these tariff hikes is astonishing. But, I'd like to ask you why you say this is a crisis and these volatile tariff hikes. And is there a crisis actually, or am I exaggerating? Because people will counter this and say, well, the cost of electricity is actually really cheap in South Africa. So where exactly is the issue?
Yeah. Thanks, Aki. So definitely, I think we sort of take a broad look at it, and also a future sort of value of where electricity is going and where the industry is going, etc. Eskom is seeking over R1 trillion between 2026 to 2028. How are they going to achieve this? And that's what we believe is going to be through increasing electricity tariffs themselves. And this is where the crisis really for us comes to the forefront. We've seen Eskom apply for a 36.15% increase for the 2025-2026 period. We've also seen over the past 2 years a 34% increase. Historically, since 2008, Eskom's increased by more than 450%. Wow. And the projections for 2026-2027 is 11.8%, and the 2027-2028 period is 9.8%. If we look at the same period going back a year, and Eskom had said that this year they would have an 11% increase, where in reality they're actually applying for a 36% increase. So it's definitely not, you mentioned sort of inflation, etc. We're not seeing anything linked to inflation. And we do believe this will be a crisis for us. 36.15% increase.
Sure, that is a challenge. Look, the positive side of all this, and I had a very brief discussion with Mteto Nyati, the chairman of Eskom, and listened to him being interviewed, and they're really getting to the bottom of what was causing a lot of the issues. And the great news is that, we haven't had load shedding in a while, which is positive. And there's, that's adding great impetus into the economy, which is all good news. And, at the end of the day, they've got a business to run. They've got to keep those power stations running, and they've got to service them properly, et cetera, et cetera. But what are the drivers behind these tariff increases? I might have alluded to one of them, which it being the maintenance, and it's not cheap. But why are we having such massive increases?
So you mentioned load shedding, and I think if we look back, what businesses had to do to come up with these alternative solutions to mitigate the effects of load shedding, and it was by putting on-site, behind-the-meter, rooftop, carport solar to mitigate the load shedding effect. In doing so, we've solved, to a certain degree, we've solved one problem. So load shedding definitely hasn't been around this year as much as it was in previous years. But in doing so, we've actually created a different problem. Okay, if we look at it over the last couple of years, private generation is looking at generating about 6 gigawatts now of private generated electricity. This means Eskom has lost 6 gigawatts of revenue. Okay. As a result of that, how does Eskom, their overheads are still the same, their maintenance is still the same, as you mentioned. So how do they now keep up with their overheads, the maintenance that's required, etc., if they've got this loss of 6 gigawatts? And this is where we believe that the only way they can make up the shortcoming is through tariff increases. And this is what we believe is obviously driving this crisis that we're going to probably see in the near future of these elevated electricity prices.
Very, very interested. Now, is there anything that businesses can do to combat these kind of tariffs? As a business, what can one do?
Yeah, so South Africans by nature, we're very resilient. And the simple solution is we need to find cheaper electricity, cheaper powers or cheaper power sources. Businesses have already been seeking this. Like I've mentioned, we've gone from rooftop solar to behind the meter. We've looked at putting in batteries, etc. And this is kind of where it stopped. So as an example, a business will have roof space and they'll fill it up as much as they can to alleviate some of those costs of electricity by generating their own electricity. But often what they need as an electricity requirement is not met by what they can have on site. And traditionally, this is where it's kind of stopped, i.e., I've got a certain carport or I've got a roof and I filled it up. And that's all. I can't get more than what I've able to get or generate on site. There is alternatives now, okay? And we're seeing the market evolve, and this is where we believe Electricity 2.0, or we've dubbed Electricity 2.0, really comes to the forefront and can help customers who their on-site doesn't meet their electricity requirements.
Very interesting. Your recently launched Electricity 2.0, I see you're using a lot of sexy terminology there, the 2.0 solution suite, Electricity 2.0. I like the way you're doing it, but what exactly is it? It sounds very fancy. Electricity 2.0, what's that all about, Brandon?
So if we think about it in simplistic terms, electricity, you've always conventionally bought electricity from Eskom.
Right.
Or let's not say you've electricity has been generated by Eskom. You've then purchased it either through the municipality or through Eskom. And let's call that electricity 1.0. Okay. 2.0 is now where we've seeked out alternative solutions. Okay. First of all, to reduce our carbon emissions. Okay. And then looking for cheaper electricity sources. So you've gone for solar on site. You're looking at a battery, etc., for peak shaving. Electricity 2.0 is now where we can take a virtual power ecosystem, okay, giving businesses more choice than they've ever had before through virtual solutions like wheeling. And you alluded to this a little bit earlier, and we've had previous discussions about this. And it's very much an approach that Solar Africa takes to say, right, we need to understand how you use your electricity. We take you on this journey by saying, right, for your business, the way you use electricity, okay, it's best to put on site with a battery, and then we top you up with wheeling. Okay, the on site and the battery are very dependent on how you use electricity, but more so about the constraints you might have with actually putting something down on site. You might have in an area that is a high crime area, so putting solar panels. I think you know now solar panels becoming quite a hot commodity in the illegal side of things. So there's a lot of theft of solar panels. But you might also have roof constraints, ground constraints, or space availability constraints. And conventionally with electricity 1.0, you've been only limited to being able to put something down on site. Electricity 2.0 allows us to take a very unique approach by saying, right, how do we get to you, or how do we get to your energy requirements, okay, your electricity requirements, by putting different sources of electricity, on-site electricity through solar, battery, peak shaving, and now wheeling, virtual electricity, where we're generating it from an off-site, okay, and we're having this financial transaction that we're able to apply onto your bill to give you further benefits into cost savings on your electricity, averting that electricity price crisis.
Very interesting. I mean, all sorts of questions pop into my mind immediately. I mean, why would a business choose Electricity 2.0 rather than investing in its own solar equipment or procuring energy from only one source? So those are the two immediate questions that pop into my mind.
So, and I think most businesses will probably relate to what I'm about to say is a business is a subject matter expert in what they do. Okay, they're not necessarily subject matter experts in washing solar panels, maintaining it, making sure it's correct. If there's hail damage, insurance claims, just general maintenance of an on-site solution. And by no ways or means am I saying you shouldn't have an on-site solution. Our approach is the stackable solution. So I would still suggest putting down whatever you can on site, okay, which is often limited by what your roof can hold, ground, carport, etc., availability and space-wise, okay, but then moving on to a virtual system as well, okay, and if we say, right, if we had to do a comparison, a virtual system is, once again, a CapEx-free solution, so there's no upfront costs required, okay, and this is with wheeling. There's no maintenance, zero maintenance. The price that you get as a rate per kilowatt hour, okay, is all inclusive. So you don't have to worry about maintaining anything. You don't have to worry about people gaining access to your property, health and safety aspects. You don't have to worry about hail damage, none of that. And I suppose that's kind of the beauty of having this phased approach to say, right, how do we look at how you're using your electricity? Where are you in your business in terms of evolution? So where are you going? Expansion, new sites, selling the building, renting, leasing off property. All of these things are questions businesses are asking themselves when they've either gone already into an on-site solution, or they're now looking at saying, right, it's got to a point, I see where electricity prices are going. It's the crisis prices, okay? And what solutions are available to me as a business so that I can actually keep my doors open? Because we can't keep on passing these escalations onto the end consumer. It's just not feasible at the moment. So yeah, looking at the different systems, I think having a clear understanding, and maybe we'll take an example or a scenario where you've got a 24-hour user of electricity with an estimated bill of, let's say, 16 million rand per month, okay? Given, obviously, this business at a 16 million rand bill, they're going to say, right, how do I save? First thing, on-site, okay? On-site, given the space, roof, etc., you could probably put 5.7 megawatts down, okay? 5.7 megawatts, because they're a 24-hour use of electricity, they're only probably saying, give or take, 5 to 7% roughly in terms of a cost saving onto the electricity bill, which is still good. That still equates to a lot of savings on a monthly basis, okay? But with Electricity 2.0, we take the next step. We say, right, how do we now incorporate on-site with battery, okay, and virtual products being wheeling, okay? As an example, by putting that 5.7 megawatts, okay, you're only penetrating the electricity bill by what you can produce during the day, okay? And if you have bad weather conditions during the day, as it produces, because it's on site, you have to consume it. If you're not consuming it, it's gone. It's lost forever unless you're putting it into a battery and discharging it. But then there's a cost of that battery as well. If we were to take wheeling and we overlay it on this customer, okay, who's a 24-hour, 16 million rand bill, we're roughly looking, okay, at anything up to a 33% savings, which would equate to about 4.5 million rand per month. Now, there's not many cost-saving mechanisms nowadays that you can implement into a business, okay, that can save you 4.5 million rand, okay, in a given month. And it's very simple and very easy to do. And I think this is the benefit of Electricity 2.0.
Listen, you can't argue around that kind of saving. I mean, that's a lot of money. Multiply that by 12 and it's a sizable amount of money. 40, 50 million rand a year is a lot of money on that size business. So how can a business get wheeling through Electricity 2.0?
So our virtual power purchase agreement, so very similar to a CapEx-free PPA, which is on site. So zero upfront costs. It's designed based on the consumption, what you draw out of the system, not what the system's producing. Our wheeling and Electricity 2.0 works in a very similar manner. We do full assessment of your electricity requirements. We assess, right, how much can you fit on site if you've already got on site. So you've bought it out in the last year or two. You bought out a system, so you own that system, but it doesn't meet your electricity requirements. We come do the assessment, we look at your bills, we overlay our generation facility production, okay, over what you're consuming on your electricity currently, which gives us a unique sort of consumption idea. And this gives us the percentage of penetration that we're able to give into your electricity bill, okay? Our terms are very similar to a normal PPA. They're relatively flexible, anything from a 5-year up to a 20-year agreement. And we can also play around with your offtake. So we can understand exactly how much you need in peak, standard, and off-peak. And we can see where those benefits from our generation facility, how it will benefit you on your electricity bill basically at the end of the month. As simple as signing a virtual power purchase agreement. That's pretty much what it boils down to.
Wow, okay. It's as simple as that. Look, when we had our last discussion a few months ago, we discussed wheeling in depth, and I urge our viewers to go back and have a look and watch that interview because it was fascinating. And wheeling is becoming more and more popular, which means there are more wheeling providers out there entering the market. So how does a business choose the right provider? And what should you be looking out for when you are entering into an agreement that has wheeling involved?
Yeah, great question, Aki. And you hit the nail on the head. We are seeing a lot of maybe referred to as smoke and mirrors at the moment. And I think the key for any business is understanding where the supplier, of wheeling is in the process. It's definitely not a quick and easy process, to start wheeling. And you need to understand where the supplier is in the process. If they physically haven't broken ground, and we'll take a step back, maybe we look at, in order to wheel, you need to have a generation facility. So you need to physically have a big solar farm and it needs to be producing electricity. In order to get to that point of that facility producing electricity, there's a lot of hurdles. There's a lot of red tape. There's a lot of applications, approvals through Eskom, etc. And it's really understanding. So a question a business can ask is, where is the supplier in the process? If they physically don't have a spade in the ground and they aren't physically putting up a solar farm, they're a good 2 years to 3 years away from actually being able to supply you with electricity through wheeling. Okay. One of the other sort of areas that we've seen is around pricing. So a lot of guys are giving pricing a today price that is subject to escalations. It's also subject to, because they haven't procured all of the equipment, it's subject to exchange rate. So they'll give you a today price. They might only be wheeling or able to wheel in 3 years from now. You're going to have today's price plus escalations for 3 years, plus whatever the exchange rate is in 3 years from now as your final tariff that you're going to be charged. That's also one of the major things that we're seeing in terms of sort of the smoke and mirrors and how the guys are positioning pricing. One of the other areas is obviously there's these renewable energy facilities. It's not just limited to solar. You get other forms of renewable energy, and wheeling can be done through to various sources, of renewable energy. What you've got to be asking the customer or the business, you've got to be asking the suppliers, what guarantees are in place? So am I getting what guarantee from you versus the supplier that's looking at giving these competing prices? And what we are seeing is we're seeing a lot of time people are referring it to as an uptime, a facility uptime. And they'll say, I'm going to give you a 90% facility uptime, i.e. my facility will be up. But it doesn't mean I'm going to give you a guaranteed electricity kilowatt hour return. So with Solar Africa, we give a 90% guarantee of whatever we sign you up to, that we will physically be giving you those kilowatt hours. Versus what we're seeing is potentially a 70% guarantee, performance guarantee, with a 90% facility uptime. So two big things, big questions you should be asking your supplier. Where are they in the process? What is the price? Is that a today price versus a future price? And is it subject to X, Y, Z? And then what is the performance guarantee that I'm going to get when I actually sign up, etc., and you start wheeling? Those are just some of the things. But reach out to us, Aki, any points in time, and we'll definitely be able to assist.
Brandon, how do people get in touch with Solar Africa Energy?
So I think right now you can search for pretty much Electricity 2.0 on the internet, and Solar Africa will come up first. and foremost. And then you can visit our website at Solar Africa. And we're a contact, phone call, email away. We've got a great support system, company ethos, backing culture. And we're here really to provide a solution for a customer, a solution that works over a long-term relationship. And ultimately, that's what we're here to do. We're here to provide a service, not for a short period of time, but we're here to provide your service for 20 years plus.
Brandon Horn, Head of Commercial at SolarAfrica Energy. It's always good to chat to you, Brandon. Thank you so much for sharing those insights and, looking at where the future is. And it certainly sounds like electricity 2.0 is the way to go. Thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you very much, Aki. Keep well. Speak soon.